Here's an Arvin wood tube radio, AM/FM tube radio from 1962. This is a model 32R43, and it's not working, and I already know what's wrong with it, so I'm not even going to plug it in. There wouldn't be any sense in plugging it in with what's wrong with it. This radio has a broken circuit board, and ordinarily, I wouldn't, if it was a customer, most shops would tell them that the radio wouldn't be worth fixing, and to throw it in the trash. Most shops would say that. Most shops probably wouldn't even work on it. But here in this shop, I have a little bit different opinion about that. I mean, let's face it, they're not making this stuff anymore, and although there is a lot of tube radios still out there, they're not making this stuff anymore, and if I can repair it, I will try to repair it. So anyway, so I figured, well, we'll give it a shot. If anything, haven't lost anything. This isn't a customer's radio or anything. This is one of those radios I got from the estate sale, or that was purchased from an estate sale of a radio collector who had to be put in a nursing home, and a friend of mine up in Ohio ended up with a lot of the radios, and so anyway, this is one of them, and we're going to try to see what we can do with it. Now, this radio had no paper labels on it, and so I had to do some research and find out what the model number was on it, so I wouldn't forget it. I wrote it on the back here, and also wrote that the board was broken. So anyway, let's dive into this and see what we can do here. Alright, so here's the radio with the back cover removed. It's a 7 tube, as I said before, AM/FM set. And the circuit board is broken in two different places. It's broke right here where the interlock cord goes in, right here, and in the front of the filter capacitor. This is the piece that goes there. Now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to glue the circuit board back together and repair the traces on it, see if I can get it working. Now, if I was doing this for a customer, I would be under a strict agreement that there would be no warranty or anything. Unlike a lot of shops, I wouldn't tell them I wouldn't fix it. So I'm going to try to take this. I'm going to try and take this circuit board out and see what we can do with some glue, possibly some epoxy, and see if I can glue this thing back together. Of course, I might have to get the dust off of it so I can get the glue to adhere, but well, we'll see what we can do with this. I'm sure it's probably repairable, and I can probably get it going again. Oh man, this board is pretty severely broken. It looks like you got 1, 2, 3 pieces that are broken here, and then there's even a fracture here. So yeah, I don't know, this this may not be worth even messing with. And then to make matters worse, the way they got this thing mounted in here is just completely stupid. They had this switch bolted to the front faceplate, and then they got all this crap bolted to the front faceplate. It doesn't come off in one piece, and then you got this. You got to try to get in there and get the nuts out just to take this off. It's just ridiculous designing. So anyway, I'm gonna see what I can do with this, but I don't know, it may not be worth repairing. Okay, well, it looks like it did pretty good on this corner here with super glue. Super glue seems to work sometimes on circuit boards because it's kind of a porous. This, you know, the wafer board on it is kind of porous, and sometimes it'll hold. I figured I'd try it, but it didn't work too good over here. It's kind of holding it, but maybe I'll try it with some super glue, and if it'll bond it together a little bit like this has, then I'll go back over it with some epoxy on top of it. Try to see if that'll give it a little bit better hold than, and maybe even some epoxy over here on top of this, and see if that'll help things out a little bit. But I think what I'm going to have to do to get this back together the best I can, I'm going to have to take some of these components off the board. Probably this filter capacitor and this resistor here, and get that stuff out of the way that's over the crack so I can get to it. And I'll probably just go ahead and replace that filter capacitor while I have it out. There's no sense in putting that old part back in there. Okay, so it looks like the got it together with the super glue. Worked out pretty good. Seems to be holding okay. I think I'm gonna go back over at least the top, maybe with some epoxy. See if that'll hold it a little bit better, because super glue is kind of unpredictable. Either sometimes it'll seem like it holds pretty good and then it'll turn loose. So, but yeah, it's going back together. So we'll see what we can do with it. And grab the epoxy and see what all is involved with that. Okay, I've applied the epoxy to the top side of the circuit board, and I'm going to let that set. And the bottom side of the board, I'm going to fix the solder traces on, and then I'm going to put the epoxy over the repairs, and then I will most likely I'll run hookup wire over each break, and then for extra insurance, so we make sure everything works properly. But the strength of the solder bridging over and the epoxy should give it a little bit more strength. Alright, so checking the capacitance on this filter capacitor. The 70 microfarad side checked right at 70. Let's check the 50 microfarad, the other two 50 microfarad sides. And that checks almost 100. And that one checks almost 100. It's a little high for a 50 microfarad side, so yeah, I'd call this cap bad. And that's not even hardly applying any voltage to it. I'd hate to see how leaky it is. Alright, I had the filter caps replaced, and I had to add this 22 to a 47 to make it right at 70, and then you have your other 47s to replace the 250 microfarads. And we had that replaced. This resistor that I took out was out of tolerance. So it was a 330 ohm and was measuring a little over 400 ohms. So I just went ahead and replaced it. And I may go over and spot check a few more of these resistors. Well, most likely they've probably gone up in value. Alright, so here's the finished product back in the cabinet. and it's very tricky to get this chassis back into the cabinet because it all being one piece. It's very tricky to get back in. There's a little ring down there. If you see where that switch is at, that that little ring right there where my finger's at, all the way down, has to line up between this hole and that switch hole to go in correctly, and it has to do with your pointer and all that. I don't know who designed this, but it's really not a very good design. It's not very serviceable if you ask me, but anyway, we got it all mounted back in there, and our circuit board is repaired. Our epoxy has dried, so I probably should carry this down and blow it off, blow some of this dust out of here. But anyway, we'll I think I'll go ahead and plug it in, and we'll try it out and see if it works. Alright, we got our little cheater cord installed, and I put my little FM antenna on here, so let's turn it on and see if it works. We're on FM. Oh yes, yes it does. I hear stations already.
Here from Chad Holbrook, we've been talking about him and about his team.
FM seems a little weak. Volume's cranked almost all the way up. This is real strong on local stations, but
Michigan Columbia has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for.
not too bad on local stations, but a little weak. FM seems a little on the weak side. It may have some weak tubes or something in it. Because I went through and checked all the components on this thing while I had the board out, and it checked out okay.
Here, and I never wanted to be alone. But it's like exactly the opposite this year. I'm always on campus.
After that interview, media interviews that day with people who I think you felt like you had to be more confrontational with, and my whole energy is like, let's sit down and talk, man.
Well, let's try it. Turn that light off. Got some storms in the area, so it might hear some lightning strikes in here. There's our Spanish station about 40 miles away.
And time is starting to run thin for the Gamecocks, both in terms of Herman, of course.
Meet me up on the rooftop in the night.
That station's plenty loud on AM.
Cities we took for a prey to ourselves.
There's the one up the street. Kind of hard to check the AM because of all the storms. It's about average.
Clemson 6. And it.
Yeah, from what I can tell, about average. Well, I'm going to check the tubes now. I believe I'll go ahead and check the tubes on it. See where I'm standing on that. I'm thinking I'm getting a little bit of weak. FM seems a little on the weak side. There's the same station that was on AM. It's on FM. Okay, here's our 17C8. This is the one out of the FM tuner. Yeah, it's a little weak. Well, that could explain our loss of FM. Or, not really loss, but our FM being weak. Here's a 6JB6, which is an IF. It's a little on the weak side too. It's right there in the middle of the in the question mark. Well, this is the other 6JB6. It's a little bit better. I think all these tubes are kind of mediocre. And here's a flaky 12BE6. As you can see, the short light's on when I tap tube. It comes and goes, or it was. Yeah, there it goes. Getting brighter. Yeah. Flaky. Next. Here's a 12BE6. It's a little bit better. Short light's not on and reads a little bit higher. We'll go with that one. And here's a 12AB6, the first audio tube. Yeah, it looks like it's about pretty weak. So let me see what I got on my junk. Yeah, see how much better that reads? Yep, that's what we need right there. And here's the 50C5 audio output tube. Oh yeah. It's reading about 82. That's plenty strong compared to all these other ones we've been reading. Alright, here's the 35W4 rectifier tube. And it reads kind of in the middle. But I've checked several other tubes and they all read about the same. So I don't know, I think it's this tester. It just doesn't read very good on some tubes. Now this one read 74 on my other tester and it's reading about the same, so I'm just going to go with the one that's already in the radio.
You make sure
okay,
students born here.
Well, we got it all put back together and fired up here, and
organize a memorial service where over 100
I robbed a 17C9 tube that went in the FM out of another radio, and it seems like the FM is a lot better now.
That the scripture indicates here with a kind of confidence.
on TikTok. We're online at planetfitness.com. Planet Fitness.
Julia Bell's Restaurant. We hand make our delicious brioche rolls for our famous.
Whether Ed Fulmer, the former president, was involved, and so forth and so on. I will just tell you this.
All right, so here's my 1962 Arvin 32R43, I believe it was. Play it again. Even after the circuit board was broken 4 different places. Thanks for watching.